Count Dracula killed 13 people, and the FBI once investigated whether a guy actually murdered someone on film. And honestly, I don't know which of these murders is weirder, but we're about to find out exactly how many years in prison your favorite horror movie villains would get if they were actually tried in a court of law. So, Count Dracula shows up in England after what I can only describe as the worst cruise of all time. 11 sailors got on a ship with him in Transylvania, and 0 sailors made it to London alive, which, that's already enough to put him away forever. But Dracula's just getting started. If I was one of those sailors, well, I wouldn't be, because the lion is scared of the dark. The lion needs someone to hold him at night, otherwise he cries. The lion is brave. He then moves into this house and immediately starts targeting young women. What a creep. Yeah, and which feels predictable for a guy who's been doing this for like 400 years. You'd think he'd branch out. Anyway, he drains Lucy Westerna's blood until she dies, and then she comes back as a vampire and starts attacking children. So now we're adding child endangerment to the list, which is great for his legal defense. Bro is gonna need Saul Goodman at this point. Your Honor, my client is based. Case dismissed. Oh, and his servant, Renfield, tries to warn people about what is happening. So Dracula just snaps his neck and throws him down a staircase. There's 13 people dead by the time anyone does anything about it. Now, here's where this gets fun from a legal standpoint. In a modern US court, Dracula's looking at 13 counts of first-degree murder. That's premeditated, because he's literally stalking these people and charming them before he attacks. There's planning involved. He's not just stumbling into victims, he is selecting them. And we haven't even talked about the assault and battery charges for everyone he bit but didn't kill, or the whole desecration of bodies things, since he's turning corpses into more vampires. Which, call me a feminist, but that's definitely illegal. The sentencing here is pretty straightforward. Each murder gets you life in prison. And when you stack 13 of those, you're never leaving. Some states would absolutely give him the death penalty for multiple victims. Which brings up an interesting problem, because how exactly do you execute an immortal vampire? You can't just do lethal injection on a guy who's technically already dead. The state would probably argue for a stake through the heart, but I don't know if that's an approved method of execution in any jurisdiction. Sunlight maybe? Either way, the court's not letting him walk. The whole "I need blood to survive" defense doesn't really hold up when you've murdered a dozen people. Now let's talk about someone that committed an even worse crime, the Invisible Man. Dr. Jack Griffin figures out how to turn himself invisible, and within a week he's murdered over 100 people. That is not a typo. That is 100 people. It starts small. He strangles a cop who's investigating him, which is bad, obviously, but then he just goes completely off the rails. He derails a train and kills about 100 passengers in a crash. Not because he needed to, just because he felt like causing chaos. He announces he's going to create a reign of terror, and then actually follows through, which you don't see that often from our villains. The lion was not loved as a child, it seems. The lion is now invisible. He also throws 2 volunteers off of a cliff. They were just trying to help with a search party. And then he forces his former colleague, Dr. Kemp, into a car and drives it off another cliff. So apparently, cliffs are his preferred murder method when he's not derailing trains. The legal charges here are pretty severe. Mass murder for the train thing alone, because that's killed about 100 people with clear premeditation. He sabotaged the tracks knowing what would happen. That is terrorism, by the way. An intentional mass casualty event spreading fear across the countryside. That is the actual legal definition of terrorism. Then you've got individual murder charges for the cop, for Dr. Kemp, for the search party guys, assault and battery for everyone he beat up during his rampage. Destruction of property for the train tracks. The list goes on. Griffin would get, surprising, the death penalty in basically any state that has it. The train derailment alone qualifies because of the victim count. And honestly, even states without the death penalty would probably make an exception for a guy who killed 100 people while invisible and clearly plans to keep going if not caught. The practical problem is that you can't really hold an invisible person in prison. You need thermal cameras running constantly, or maybe cover him in paint. Some jurisdictions tried to argue that you could keep him sedated, but that feels like it violates about 15 different amendments. So the justice system would push for execution, because there's no way to actually contain him, which means Griffin's getting either the electric chair or whatever method kills invisible people. I assume it still works if you can't see them. Let's now talk about demons and how I'm gonna sue this demon. Pazuzu is an ancient demon who possesses a 12-year-old named Reagan, and then immediately starts committing felonies. The first victim is this film director named Burke Dennings. The demon twists his head around and throws him out of the window, and he lands at the bottom of the stairs with a broken neck. Father Carras tries to exorcise the demon, so Pazuzu makes him throw himself out of a window too. Father Marin, the elderly priest, just dies from stress during the exorcism, because why not? That's such a creative death, which the demon technically caused anyways. And the whole time Pazuzu's beating up Regan's mom Chris and throwing her across rooms, causing injuries. Plus there's what the demon does to Regan herself, the self-mutilation, the contorting her body in ways that would definitely count as child abuse. So legally, if you could charge a demon as a separate entity, which is a weird sentence to say, I don't think anyone has ever broached this topic before. God, my parents wish I would have been a lawyer. My parents actually wanted me to be a lawyer. Guys, I'm just letting you know right now, I would not survive in a court of law, because I would be sitting in the corner, being my lawyer shit, probably doodling on a notepad, a smiley face. And then I'm looking at the guy's hair, and I'm like, your hair looks stupid, but it's funny as I'm writing down. Anyways, I'd be like, Your Honor, is it really bad that he ran over 6 different people in a school zone? He's got good music playing. Really, are we trying to be based here, or are we trying to be not based? Society is whack, yo. Oh, the girls are gonna love this one. Editor, make sure you cut that from the video. I don't want my audience knowing that that was performative. So again, legally, if you could charge a demon as a separate entity, which is a weird sentence to say, Pazuzu's looking at multiple counts of first-degree murder. Burke Dennings and Father Carras both died from intentional malicious acts. Father Marin's death might be manslaughter since it was from a heart attack, but the demon definitely caused it. Then there's aggravated assault for attacking Chris and the priests, child abuse for torturing Regan for weeks, and you could argue kidnapping, because the demon was basically holding Regan hostage in her own body, which feels like false imprisonment. The problem with prosecuting a supernatural entity that our current legal system doesn't really have the capabilities to prosecute regular criminals. What the hell do you think they're gonna do with the demon? Bro, they let everyone go free that is bad. They're not getting the demon. They probably don't even know. But in a Saul Goodman universe where he owns the legal stuff, there's Jesus, and then there's Saul Goodman who's legal Jesus, and his doctrine would be ultimate court of law. So he could sue you through prayer. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that he would sue the demon, and the demon would get put in prison with Saul Goodman as his legal Jesus. Let's move on. This isn't making sense. Let's talk about Carrie White. Carrie White gets pig blood dumped on her at prom, and her response is to murder basically everyone in the building, which I'm not saying the bullying wasn't bad, but there's proportional responses, and then there's this. And look, coming from me, who got stuffed in lockers as a child, I think she went a little too far. So first she locks all the gym doors first. That's the key detail. She uses her telekinesis to seal the exits, and then she starts the fire. So everyone inside is trapped while the place burns down. Students, teachers, doesn't matter. Dozens of people die in that gym, and in the novel, it's even worse because she destroys half the town. Gas stations explode, fires spread everywhere, and hundreds are dead by the time she's done. When she gets home, her mom tries to stab her because she thinks Carrie's possessed, and Carrie just stops her heart. Or in the film version, she throws kitchen knives into her telekinetically. Either way, that's matricide, killing your own mother, which courts really don't like. 2 of her bullies, Chris and Billy, try to run her over with a car, and she flips it with her mind and kills them both in the crash. So that's 2 more bodies, although I really do not feel bad for Chris and Billy. Hot take, call me woke, but don't bully people. It's not cool. Moving on. The prosecutors would have a field day with this case if Carrie had lived. Locking the doors before starting the fire shows clear premeditation. She wasn't just lashing out, she was making sure nobody escaped. That is first-degree murder. Multiple counts, and probably 30 or 40 depending on how many died in the gym. Then there's arson for burning down the school, because there is always arson when it comes to schools. Murder of her mother, manslaughter maybe for Chris and Billy since that was more reactive, and honestly you could argue her powers could count as a weapon of mass destruction, because that's functionally what happened. She caused explosions and a widespread fire. Now, Carrie was 17 and severely abused her entire life. The bullying was extreme. The prom incident was genuinely traumatic. A defense lawyer would absolutely argue diminished capacity or temporary insanity, and there's a chance a jury shows some mercy. But here's the thing, the law doesn't justify mass murder because people were mean to you. Carrie killed dozens of kids who had nothing to do with the prank. She burned down the school, she destroyed property across town. Best case scenario, she gets life in prison. Worst case, she's on death row. And the court's main concern would be making sure she never loses control again, because her powers make her as dangerous as any bomb. But now let's talk about someone that didn't have powers. Well, they had the power to ruin an entire generation of men that just listened to Sigma male music while watching clips of this guy. It's Patrick Bateman. We're talking about Patrick Bateman. You know we're talking about Patrick Bateman. I once knew this guy when I was in college. His entire personality was trying to be Patrick Bateman, but I don't know what it was, but the combination of that and the fact that he was 5 foot tall well. I don't know. I thought he was kind of funny, not in like a good way. I don't know. Patrick Bateman has ruined a generation. I can never take this movie seriously anymore. And the fact they made a sequel and Meg Griffin is the killer now? No. Like, oh my God, Megan, you just killed like 600 people. Megan, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing? Oh my God. Patrick Bateman is a Wall Street investment banker who murders people in his spare time because apparently making money was not fun for him. He confesses on a voicemail to his lawyer that he's killed maybe 20 to 40 people. The guy thinks it's a fun little quirky joke. Paul Allen, one of his coworkers, gets an axe to the head in his own apartment. Bateman then dismembers the body and stores parts of it in a suitcase, which seems like a lot of effort for someone who's supposedly too busy to return videotapes. He even impersonates Paul afterward to cover his tracks, so there's premeditation all over this. He targets prostitutes constantly. Christy and Sabrina get lured to his apartment, and one of them gets chased down a stairwell with a chainsaw, which is genuinely one of the most insane murder methods I've ever heard of. He also stabs a homeless man named Al and stomps his dog to death, because apparently he doesn't like dogs. In the book, he admits to eating body parts even, cooked someone's brains, and kept a severed head in his freezer. The whole 9 yards. And there's this scene where he goes on a rampage, shooting at cops and random people, though the film makes it unclear if that was real or hallucinated. If evidence came out and Bateman got caught, he's facing multiple counts of first-degree murder for Paul Allen, the prostitutes, the homeless guys, possibly security guards, and police. Each murder has clear intent and planning, so that's 20 to 40 life sentences stacked up. He'd also get charged with other crimes, we're just going to put it at, against the girls that are in this movie, because he forced them into a violent encounter before killing them. Kidnapping, because he held victims in his apartment against their will. Desecration of corpses for the cannibalism and storing body parts. And animal cruelty for the dog. And illegal weapon possession for the guns and the chainsaw. And that god-awful personality. New York didn't have an active death penalty when his crimes occurred, so he's looking at life without parole times 20, maybe more. The cannibalism and torture are aggravating factors, so a judge would throw the maximum sentence at every single charge. His defense might try to argue insanity because he clearly has psychotic episodes and breaks with reality, but Bateman tried to hide his crimes, which shows he knew they were wrong. That usually kills any insanity defense. Let's talk about someone else that lost their mind. Jack Torrance. Jack Torrance takes his family over to Outlook Hotel for the winter, and by the end of it, he's trying to murder them all with an axe. Look, I was a stupid teenager once. I got cranky on family vacations too sometimes. One time, I just ditched everyone on a cruise ship for a couple days and just did my own thing. That is not a joke, but I'm not gonna kill them over it. Come on, that's not fun. Hey, you watching? If you're on a family vacation with your family, just tell them that you love them. This isn't a joke. You're probably laughing right now because I'd never take anything seriously, but you should hug your family. Wait, is that your dad at the door? Anyways, the hotel ghosts push him over the edge, but that doesn't really matter legally speaking. Dick Halloran comes back to help because he senses something's wrong, and Jack just ambushes him with an axe to the chest. It kills him immediately. That is first-degree murder right there, because Jack was waiting for him. He hid and attacked, which shows planning. Then he goes after his wife Wendy with the same axe. The famous "Here's Johnny" scene where he's chopping through the bathroom door while she's hiding inside. She survives by cutting his hand and escaping, but that is absolutely attempted murder. He was actively trying to kill her. His son Danny gets chased through the hedge maze in freezing cold while Jack's hunting him down with clear intent to murder his own child. Danny only lives because he's smarter and manages to trick his dad, but that doesn't really change what Jack was trying to do. Before all this, Jack had already hurt Danny once. He got drunk and grabbed the kid so hard that he dislocated his arm. That's something we like to call in America child abuse, bitch. And during the breakdown at the hotel, he sabotages their radio and snowmobile. The family can't escape or call for help. That is reckless endangerment at minimum. The tricky part here is Jack's mental state. He's clearly not in his right mind. The hotel's evil influence is real in the story, and he's seeing ghosts and hearing voices. A modern court would almost definitely find him criminally insane. But if we ignore that, because it's my YouTube video, and look at just the crimes, Jack murdered Dick Halloran and tried to murder his wife and son. In Colorado, that is punishable by life in prison or death. The murder of an innocent person trying to rescue the family is especially bad. Add in the attempted murders of a spouse and child, and a prosecutor could absolutely seek the death penalty, or listening to 7 minutes of Taylor Swift's music. Guys, I'm just joking. I like Taylor Swift. Do not cancel me. I think Taylor Swift is good music. I just think it's fun to make fun of people sometimes. You can do it with me. You can say I'm stupid. You get one free hate comment. More likely though, Jack gets declared insane and sent to a psychiatric facility forever. Not because anyone feels bad for him, him, but because he clearly had a mental break. Either way, he is never coming home. Look, it is November already, and it is time to talk about Halloween, the movie, not the actual holiday, because no, I didn't go trick-or-treating this year. Stop asking me that. I definitely didn't get like 6 pounds of candy corn and ate it all in 2 days. Why would you ever say that about me? There's a character in Trick or Treat named Sam who enforces Halloween traditions by murdering anyone who disrespects them. He's like evil Santa Claus. And I want to be clear, when I say enforces, I mean he stabs people with a sharpened lollipop until they're dead. Is it weird? Is it insane? Yes. Is it a good movie? Yes, it's a very good movie. If you're a fan of anthology series, this is a really good one, and I wish more people liked it. Emma makes the mistake of blowing out her jack-o'-lantern early and taking down decorations before midnight. Sam watches her do this, follows her inside, and smashes her throat with the lollipop. Then he dismembers her body and shoves another lollipop in her mouth, because apparently presentation matters when you're committing murder. Later, he breaks into this old guy, Mr. Krieg's house, because Krieg hates Halloween. Sam attacks him with a razor blade hidden in a candy bar, stabs his hand, slices his Achilles tendon, ew, that always gets me, and tries to kill him until Krieg accidentally gives him candy. Then Sam just leaves. So his moral code is, you can hate Halloween as long as you participate, which feels like something an HOA president would come up to you with. Like literally, mine got mad at me because I had a minion in my yard. What do you mean I can't have the minions in my own front yard 365 days a year? It's my damn house. I paid for it. If I want to recreate a nativity scene with the minions and the baby is Gru, you're gonna goddamn let me. America, hell yeah. I'm not even American. The legal charges here start with first-degree murder for Emma. Sam stalked her, waited under her decorations, and then killed her. That is textbook premeditation. He also mutilated her body afterwards, which counts as desecration of a corpse and makes the murder even worse in terms of sentencing. Attempted murder for Mr. Krieg, because Sam was absolutely trying to kill him. The Achilles tendon thing is considered mayhem in legal terms, which means permanently disabling someone on purpose. That is a separate charge on top of attempted murder. Aggravated burglary for breaking into Krieg's house with the intent to commit a felony. Tampering with food for putting razor blades in candy, which is specifically illegal in most states because of Halloween scare laws. Ohio has the death penalty, and Sam's case would qualify. Premeditated murder with post-mortem mutilation is about as aggravating as it gets, other than like people chewing with their mouth open. The fact that he killed someone for taking down decorations isn't going to win him any sympathy from a jury. His defense couldn't even argue insanity because Sam clearly knows right from wrong. He follows the rules. He just enforces them lethally. That is not insanity. That's just being a dick. So Sam's getting a lethal injection in Ohio, assuming anyone can catch a supernatural trick-or-treater. But legally, he'd be on death row for a holiday-themed homicide, which is possibly the dumbest reason to get executed. Now let's talk about how the law punishes minors. We're talking about Orphan. Leena Klammer is a 33-year-old woman with a rare condition that makes her look like a child, and she uses this to get adopted by families so that she can try to seduce the fathers. When that inevitably fails, she kills everyone. What a crash out. Before the events of Orphan, she already murdered the Albright family in Estonia. A couple and their son all stabbed to death, and then she burned their house down to cover it up. Got caught, sent to an asylum for the criminally insane, and then murdered a guard and a nurse to escape. In America, she gets adopted by the Coleman family as Esther. Sister Abigail, the nun who starts getting suspicious, gets bludgeoned with a hammer and then stabbed to death. Leena hides the body and no one finds it for a while, which bought her time to keep going. She tries to kill the Coleman son, Daniel, by loosening the bolts on his treehouse so he falls. When that doesn't work, she goes to the hospital and tries to smother him in his bed. The kid survives, but only because the doctors walked in. John Coleman, the father, rejects her advances because he adopted her and she looks like she's 9. So Leena stabs him repeatedly in their home and kills him. Then she goes after Kate, the mother, shooting her in the arm and later trying to strangle her on an icy pond. These charges start to pile up fast. Multiple counts of first-degree murder across 2 countries. The Albright family, Sister Abigail, John Coleman, the asylum guard, and nurse. That's at least 6 premeditated murders. That's attempted murder too for Daniel and Kate, arson for burning down the house in Estonia, and fraud and identity theft for faking documents to pass as a child. Child abuse charges for terrorizing the actual kids of the family too. Estonia doesn't have the death penalty, but the US does in some states, and if she was tried here, we're fucking using the death penalty. She's a serial killer who murdered multiple people after escaping from an asylum where she was already locked up for murder. The insanity defense won't work because she is smart. She plans. She covers tracks. She knows exactly what she was doing. She's just a sociopath who happens to look like a kid. Let's move on to Lucky Charms though. Leprechaun. I don't really love this movie. I just think it's crazy in the concept, and leprechauns are just dumb, but whatever. They're always after me, Lucky Charms. The leprechaun kills people who steals his gold, which would be fine if he wasn't so excessive about it. Across all of the leprechaun movies, he murders at least 45 people, and some of them didn't even take this gold. They just annoyed him. In the first film, he bites off a guy's ear and then pogo sticks on him until he dies. What the fuck? Why? He snaps a police officer's neck for getting in his way. He scares someone into having a fatal stroke. And these are just the on-screen kills, because there's heavy implication he murdered way more people before the movies even started. The sequels start to get more creative though. In Leprechaun 2, he rips out a man's gold tooth and the guy dies from it. That doesn't make any sense. In Leprechaun 3, he makes a woman inflate until she explodes because she tried to steal his coins. What the hell? This feels like someone's like writing some weird ass fantasy. I don't know, man. That's insane. Someone get pyrocynical on the phone, you know what I mean? He cuts someone in half with a wheelchair in another film and blends a person into a smoothie. The methods get increasingly weird, but he's not just murdering, he's also stealing back his gold through force, which counts as armed robbery. He breaks into homes and businesses constantly, so that's dozens of burglary charges, and he blows stuff up with magic, which is destruction of property and possibly arson. Legally, the leprechaun's facing dozens of first-degree murder charges. That is not a sentence I ever thought I would ever say in my life. Each killing is planned. He often makes a threatening rhyme before he does it, which proves he is thinking about it beforehand. That is premeditation. He also killed cops, which is in many states an automatic aggravating factor for the death penalty. The torture methods he uses, the sadistic enjoyment he gets from killing, those are aggravating too. If they could somehow arrest him, he would be tried in multiple states for an interstate killing spree. That means federal charges, and the federal government absolutely has the death penalty for serial murder. The biggest problem is you can't really hold a magical creature in prison. He can appear and disappear. He's got supernatural powers, and normal execution methods might not work on him. But from a legal standpoint, he's getting the death penalty in every state that has it. For 45 murders, torture, killing law enforcement, there is no other outcome. The court would demand permanent removal, assuming they could figure out how to kill an immortal leprechaun. Look, I got a Grudge to pick with our next film. We're talking about The Grudge. The Grudge works on a pretty simple rule. Walk into this one specific house in Tokyo, and a ghost named Kayako will hunt you down and kill you. Doesn't matter if you're a social worker checking on an elderly patient or a detective investigating murders. You walked in, you fucked up, you're dead. Yoko, the caretaker, goes first. Kayako rips her jaw completely off, which is somehow more disturbing than just killing her normally. They find Yoko's lower jaw later, just sitting there, so we know Kayako physically attacked her and not just scared her to death. Matthew Williams and his wife Jennifer both die after encountering Kayako in the house. The movie shows Kayako crawling into Jennifer's bed, and that's the last we see of her alive. Matthew's sister Susan starts getting haunted next, and here's where it gets worse. Kayako follows Susan to her office, then to her apartment, and the curse isn't limited to the house anymore. Detective Nakagawa investigates all of these deaths, and Kayako drowns him in the house. There's also Karen's boyfriend Doug, who disappears after going to the house. That's another body. 5 people dead from one film alone, and the sequels show the curse spreading internationally. Now, here's the weird part. How do you charge a ghost with murder? Our legal system doesn't do that. But if we ignore that problem and just look at the crimes, Kayako's responsible for at least 5 counts of first-degree murder. Each killing is intentional. She picks targets, stalks them, and then attacks. The jaw-ripping thing with Yoko shows extreme violence. Following Susan to her apartment proves that she's not just defending territory. She's actively hunting people down. Japan has the death penalty for multiple murders, and it's usually by hanging. The US does too in some states. Kayako's murders are vicious. There is no remorse, and she keeps going. But you can't execute someone who's already dead. The only real solution is exorcism, which in this case functions as capital punishment for ghosts, because you're permanently removing the entity to prevent more deaths. The court's goal would be breaking the curse entirely, which is the supernatural version of life in prison. Burning the house didn't work in the film, neither did removing her body. So legally, the only sentence that makes sense is whatever ritual actually destroys her, because that's the only way to stop the murders. So yeah, it turns out horror movie villains would mostly see life behind bars, assuming we could figure out the whole like arresting immortal supernatural beings thing. So yeah, Dracula gets 13 life sentences, the Invisible Man is on death row for terrorism, and Kayako needs an exorcism instead of a trial. Let me know in the comments if you think I was a just and fair judge. If not, I'm suing you because now I am a lawmaker because I made this video. But anyways, if you like this video, let me know in the comments what other characters I should put in a video like this. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future uploads. And if you hit the hype button on this video, I will not sue you. And if you want to watch another one of my videos, you can click the video that's on the screen right now. It's on the right hand side. It's probably a good one. Bye bye.